It's the Brad and John Show.
How was that, John? Did you like that?
It's terrific. There's a little bit of British in that AI voice. I sound a little bit like Jack Frost if Jack Frost was heterosexual.
Okay.
If Jack Frost enjoyed helping women out of his clothes and wasn't a homosexual, my voice on the AI thing would sound just like this.
Man, first off, you get me in trouble with Nina Needleman. Now you get me in trouble with Jack Frost. Okay, this is the C Block. Today's date is, what is today? It's the
It's 4 days past, apparently, when a FCC notice was due. So that's good to know.
It's the 15th, right? 15th of January.
Today is the 14th.
What? No, today's not the 14th, is it?
Today is Wednesday the 14th. Tomorrow is Thursday the 15th.
12, 13, 14. That's right. It's the 14th. Okay. What were you supposed to remind me what we're going to talk about? I wrote it down.
We're going to talk about bulldog and bleeps like the Georgetown Hoyas.
Okay. Yesterday when I drive around, I listen to all sorts of different radio stations. I was listening to The Patriot, and that's not Tracy's station. Matter of fact, it's real funny because they ticked her off because they call it The Patriot, where you can hear real talk, where that's her station, Real Talk 93.
Yeah. And what show was it?
It was the Buck and Clay show, the replacement of the Rush Limbaugh show. It was the
Buck Sexton and Clay Travis.
Yeah, Clay and Buck show. Okay, and Clay's one son is a high school senior, and Clay has talked about this over the past couple of weeks that he's taking a day off from here, every once in a while to take his son to go tour colleges. They're doing like the college tour, which John, some years from now, you'll probably be doing that as well, too, taking your kids to see what colleges they would like to attend. And he said, and he goes with his son, and he listens to the pitch, and when they had the orientation, the lady who gave the orientation, she started off the orientation by saying, first and foremost, you have to understand that we are standing on stolen land. Okay, this is how she starts. This is how she starts off the orientation. Okay, and I'm thinking to myself, there's no way that happened. He swears this happened. The very first thing out of her mouth was, we're standing on stolen land, and she goes into what Indian tribe, and this is in D.C., what Indian tribe was there, and how we took the land from them, and how we're these terrible white people, and blah, 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 blah. And he said, I'm not going to say anything to my son. I'm just going to let him decide. And on the way back, his son said, Dad, I have no interest in that place. I can't believe that lady started out by saying that. I mean, once again, wouldn't you say, you prospective students, let me tell you why Georgetown is the university you want to go to. Let me tell you some of the amazing graduates who've gone on to do wonderful things in the United States and around the world, who've saved lives, who've created dynamic economies, who've created structures. Our civil engineers have done this. Our attorneys have upheld the law and tracked down bad guys, and our professors who graduated from here with PhDs have gone on to teach in some of the most prestigious universities around the globe. No, she starts off with, you're standing on stolen land. I mean, good God. I mean, do they not understand that they're essentially in the sales position, that they're trying to sell a college? You know what I'm saying, John?
Yeah. What I would want to know, if I was a member of the Georgetown community, if I worked for the university, and you think about your tour guides and how important they are, was this woman going from a script that she's trained on, or does she go out and essentially go into business for herself and take the script, but she decides to start with, you're standing on stolen land? So I would want to know that. I would want to know, was this woman freestyling, or are we really training our tour guides to lead with that?
That is an excellent point. I don't know the answer to that. He didn't address that. But still, somebody has to know that this is being said.
Yeah, well, I would certainly think that Clay talking about it helps.
Right.
And also, is it unfair? And maybe you and I would disagree on this. Is it unfair for Clay and his son to judge the university based on what one tour guide, who may or may not have had purple hair, who may or may not be angry at the world, is it fair to say that she's an accurate representation of the university?
Well, I get your point, and you're exactly right. I give the example of, and I had the same thing happen, and John's going to say, okay, here's Dedham Toss again, where when my daughter started at WashU Law School, And my ex-wife and I went down for the day. There was a day of orientation, and I thought to myself, okay, a day, this is torture. And matter of fact, I loved it. I loved every second of it. And before we broke for lunch, we broken up in groups of 10, 5 couples, and we had these tour guides who toured the building, and about half.
And one was a 3L. You told the story on Friday.
Right. Halfway through the tour, the woman who was giving us the tour guide, she's a third-year law student. She stopped and she says, "Ladies, I did some research, and my daughter was class at 2014, and this was in 2011. She says, if your sons and daughters, if the attendance stays the way it is right now, that half the class will be men and half the class will be women, and that's never happened. And matter of fact, she went back to 1944. It was like 98% men and 2% women. In 1954, it was 10% women and 90% men and the whole bit. And I thought that was very interesting because to me, John, I mean, I'm the guy that's promoting women where you're the guy who's demeaning women, but that's a whole other story. But I'm the guy that's thinking, hey, you know what? It's great. But the problem is the pendulum has swung too far. And now we've got all these guys who live in their parents' basement. And good thing if hopefully they don't live in St. Charles County because Ricky Schroeder will assess that new tax for people living in basements in St. Charles County. But anyway, the idea being is that it's gone the other way. And instead of having, 50-50 classes, we now have I think I told you some of the universities are high as 70 as far as graduation rates, 70% women, 30% men.
But for folks who are reading the recap of this entire section will be called BGH for Brad's Greatest Hits. We took the law school tour story. We took men and women in schools, and we talked the ratio of graduates. So yes, Brad's Greatest Hits. I agree with you on all these things. And it's fantastic that we have women who are becoming overeducated and jaded and don't need no man. And if you want to hear more about that, you can hear Brad talk about a woman marrying a dog yesterday in C Block. That was January 13th, 2026.
Yeah, okay. You mentioned, and I mentioned men and women. Did you read any of the transcripts from the Supreme Court case yesterday when they were making their oral arguments in front of the Supreme Court on this transgender thing? Did you read any of this stuff?
I didn't read any transcripts of it. I do have some stories up today on my website, Brad.
The story about the guy, I think because there were 2 cases, one from Idaho, if I'm not mistaken, and one from Virginia, if I'm not mistaken. And the attorney who was pleading the case for allowing transgenders into essentially allowing biological men into biologically women sports teams, he was asked repeatedly for a definition of man and woman, and he would not give one. I don't understand this. Do you understand this whole crazy thing? If I said, John, tell me what a car is, and if you said
you would have to describe its basic components: the engine, the chassis, the body, the frame, right? And there's an objective way to describe it.
Right, and you essentially say most cars have 4 wheels, although there have been cars with only 3 wheels. And it typically has some kind of a propulsion device. It could be a gasoline or a diesel engine, or it could be a new car with electric. And typically it has some kind of a operator's position where the person sits down in a seat and runs the controls. Okay, you can describe what a car is. Why is it that, and this is the same thing when we had the congressional hearings and stuff like that, and they bring these judges, these liberal judges up in front, and I know that our buddy from Louisiana, John Kennedy's asking these questions, and he asked these, especially the women, okay, what's a man? What's a woman? What's the definition of a woman? And they go, well,
they're not able to describe it. Now, if they were smart, they'd compare it to a car, and with the exception of electric cars, women have a place you put the nozzle, and they also have a tailpipe.
Okay, but at one point, and I should have copied this, and I didn't. I think it was Gorsuch that sort of quizzed this guy down, and they're specifically talking about Title IX, which is, how long ago has Title IX been in? Has that been like 30, 40 years now, John, something like that? Hasn't it been like at least?
Yeah, something in that ballpark, sure.
Okay, Title IX essentially is a federal law which essentially creates, and that's the whole thing where essentially you have to have equal, if you have, and there's some sports you can't replicate. If you have a women's tennis team, you have to have a men's tennis team. If you have a women's track team, you have to have a men's track team. Obviously, with tackle football, you're not going to have too many women's tackle football
yeah,
teams,
right.
and things like that. But in women's sports, you have softball, and softball becomes very competitive with women's sports. Now, the crazy thing about it is, I think it was Gorsuch that actually said to this attorney, In Title IX, it defines who men and women are. And to the point where I'm going like, okay, I don't get it. How is this guy, who is an intelligent attorney, supposedly, arguing in front of the Supreme Court, and he can't define what a man and a woman is when he's asked by the justices?
And let me interrupt, Brad. He certainly can define it because he has common sense and he knows what it is. But he knows in the case of legal standing, to answer that honestly would be detrimental to his case.
Exactly. That's the whole thing.
And so the joy of folks who fought so hard for Title IX, which I would make the argument it's completely ridiculous and unnecessary to pretend that women's sports are on the same par in every case as men's sports. But if you fought for that and you believe in that, and then you have men coming into the sport and defeating women, you have to be outraged by that.
John, and here's the interesting part of it. If you would let's go down to the city of Clayton and just let's have fun and let's do a random survey. And we're going to say, okay, you and I are going to do a little test, and we're going to say, okay, we're going to come up with 100 $100 bills. And we're just going to randomly walk up to women and men on the street, and we're going to say, hey, I will give you a $100 bill if you will come over here and we want to take a picture of you with another group of if we go up to a woman, we're going to take a picture of you with a group of women, okay? And we have 50 $100 bills we give to 50 women, and then we have 50 $100 bills we randomly give to 50 dudes. And we put them side by side in a picture. And we take that picture, on the left side is 50 women, on the right side is 50 men, okay? And then you put that on the line and you say, can you tell which are the women and which are the men? And for the most part, the women are going to be smaller. They're not going to be as tall. They're going to
have longer hair.
They're going to have longer hair. They're going to have curvy bodies where the men don't have curvy bodies. They're going to typically be smaller in frame, smaller in weight, and to the point where it's like,
they will not be wearing comfortable shoes.
Right. To the point where it's like, okay, it's pretty easy to figure out which ones are which. You know what I mean?
And so this goes back to the fact that Democrats, I should say liberals, not Democrats, but liberals talk about how they're representing the party of science and believe science. How do you pretend that something as straightforward as sex of a child or of an adult is not real? Well, you create a term called gender, and you say that gender is a social construct, and Brad can be a woman when he goes to the Spelman Center at Lindenwood and puts on a dress and gets some campaign advice. Well, now I know that Brad is only in that room to hit on some gilfs. But other people would be like, what's this dude doing in here at a women's event?
You know, I just went through last month, a couple doctors visit, a pre-op surgery thing where I did a whole thing, and then I had my day of my surgery and the whole bit. Okay. On many forms, I had to declare whether I'm a male or a female. And there was no other choice. And I thought that was...
There wasn't, Brad?
There wasn't no another choice. And you know the reason for that, John?
Why?
Because the medical field, when you really get down to it, does not necessarily, pay attention to this crazy crap of saying, well, I'm a man, but I'm actually a woman, because of the fact that, you know why that is, John? Because men and women are physically different. We have biological differences, we have physical differences, and more importantly, the way you treat medically a woman is different in a lot of times than you would medically treat a man. Get what I'm saying, John?
I get exactly what you're saying. Now, you do overlook the fact, and it still doesn't explain why you sit down to pee. But I think that happened in jail. I think that your cellmate said you will sit down to pee, and so that became just a lifelong thing. But you're right, Brad. I mean, anybody who knows science, the men's and women's bodies are inherently different.
Right.
And imagine thinking it's okay to take a 9, 10, 11, 12, 13-year-old kid who decides that they prefer playing with boys more than girls and telling that girl, no, it's clear that God was wrong, that you should not be a woman. Let's stop your body from developing as a female and force you to be a male.
Well, I heard something the other day, and we'll end the show on this, that I heard something the other day, a doctor talking about this, and he said that if a woman wants to be a man and be, I guess, correct and to get a penis.
Got it. Yeah. Okay.
Wow. $150,000 for that.
Wow, really? Couldn't you just go to Dr. John's up in St. Anne and get something that's, a suitable replacement?
That would be the medically constructed one is $150,000. So
now, have you thought of auctioning yours off? Have you said like for a year, I'll let you take mine?
I'm going to put that on my organ donor card, and then I'll give the money to my kids. No, that won't be.
Hey, but Brad, I don't know. Would you be able to give the mileage on that? Like, do you really want to disclose the mileage?
I have to tell you something, and maybe we'll talk about this tomorrow. Remind me, we're over time tonight, or this morning. But remind me, I saw a billboard a couple weeks ago that I took a picture of, which was interesting out in St. Charles County, and I almost called because I'll tell you the story tomorrow. Okay?
Can you donate a penis?
No, it's not. It wasn't.
Do you get a free set of Cardinal tickets if you donate a car and a penis to Goodwill?
It's it's to NPR. Hi, this is NPR. And, Corporation for Public Broadcasting took away a lot of our money. So we've always, for years, told you can donate your car. Men, you can donate your penis to KWMU. Yes, your donation of your penis will keep us on the air for another 10 minutes. Or if you're really well endowed, it might keep us on the air for a couple hours. So please donate your penis. Right, John?
I don't know. If you held it up and asked a lady shaw to whisper into it, you might get a bad reaction.
Okay, now hold on. I got to check something here. Are we going to have a meltdown here? Oh, no, it's going to work. Okay, we have Fox News. We have commercials back. Okay, John, talk to you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow.